Hello, everyone. Dustin Sullivan from the School of Media Journalism here at Arkansas State University, live from the ASU-TV studios. It is my absolute honor and privilege today, the third generation, in my opinion, soon to be Hall of Famer broadcaster, in his third year with the St. Louis Cardinals after almost 20 years with the Atlanta Braves. We are thrilled and honored to have Chip Caray with us today. Chip, it is an absolute treat. We appreciate you taking time just to answer a few questions that I can share with our students here at Arkansas State about
Sure.
your past in the broadcast field and what advice you have for students that are trying to get into this industry.
Well, Dustin, first of all, thank you. The check's in the mail for that wonderful introduction. I don't know about the Hall of Fame. I'm not even the best broadcaster in my own family, but thank you. That was very kind. Look, my path to the major leagues in broadcasting is a lot different than most people. Obviously, Harry Caray was my grandfather. Skip Caray was my dad. It was kind of the family business that we all decided to get into. But when people ask me all the time about what advice I would give, is number one, you have to be passionate about whatever it is you want to do in journalism. You have to really, really be excited about it. You have to realize that it's a job. It's a great job, but it's still a job. And if you approach it with a wide-eyed passion and wide-eyed excitement every single day, especially in a game like baseball where no two games are ever alike, you are always amazed and your job is full of wonderment and excitement because there's no monotony to it whatsoever. So passion, excitement, willingness to work long hours, time away from friends and family, at least as far as our job is concerned, is a big key. And having a wonderful and understanding spouse is extremely helpful as well, because as I said, most of the important things in life that you want to be a part of, you're missing because you're saying ground ball to second in Pittsburgh on the 4th of July.
Yeah. You spent, like I said, 20 plus years in Atlanta with the Braves. What was it about the move to St. Louis that what came about making that decision?
Oh, it was time. I love my time with the Braves. I love the fans. My dad and I combined put 46 years together in the booth with the Braves organization. I had I think it's safe to say, a difficult work situation that became not fun. It was a job, and we work very hard to do the games the way that we think that they need to be done. And there was a lot of micromanagement that took place that I just got tired of after a certain period of time. And the Cardinals opportunity came about. I'm very sad about the way it happened. But when that job opened up, I told my family, look, I'd love to have this opportunity to come home. I grew up in St. Louis. I was a Cardinal fan as a kid. Both my dad and grandfather did games for the Cardinals. And so for three generations of us to work in a place that we understood the culture and were actually from was an opportunity too good for me to pass up. So I left Atlanta with no regrets. I'm very proud of the work I did, the friendships I made, and the way I represented myself, the team, and the TV network. But having a chance to start fresh at age 58 was a real challenge and real fun, and it really rejuvenated me. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah. Let's talk a bit about the family background. As you said, your father, Skip, and your grandfather, Harry, you've kind of followed in their footsteps, but also you've got others following in your footsteps as well. Your son, I believe, is with the Athletics.
Yes.
And that was a cool moment. You guys were calling side-by-side games last year as well. Talk a bit about the family atmosphere and how important it's been for you in your career.
Well, really, we're not qualified to do anything else but say strike two. So, luckily for us, there's a sport called baseball. But no, I was, again, growing up in St. Louis. My mom's dad was a dentist for 50 years. I thought about going to medical school. I thought about being a pediatrician. I wasn't smart enough to pass the MCATs or any of that stuff. So that was a pipe dream. I was a University of Georgia student. I had a very influential professor of law there, Dr. Bill Lee, who almost had me convinced to go to law school and practice journalism law because of the class that I took with him. It was just so intellectually stimulating and fun and hard that I thought that would be a very cool thing to do. But ultimately, baseball was in our blood. I love the game. I played it as a kid, not very well, but it's something I just innately knew. And watching my dad do his thing on national TV with TBS from the suburbs of St. Louis, it was the way that I was able to stay in touch with him. It was the way I was able to gauge his moods. And it was the the way that I was able, I guess, through osmosis to figure out this was my destiny. This is what I was supposed to do. So, yes, three of us have done it. My oldest son is a fourth generation broadcaster with the Oakland Athletics, now Sacramento. He's starting his second season. And his identical twin brother's got his hand in the hat for a couple of big league jobs as we speak right now. So, we're really, really blessed and lucky. As I said, it's what we do. It's a little bit of who we are, but it's what we do. And as I said, we can't put in hardwood flooring. We can't change oil in cars, but we can say 2 outs and 2 on in the ninth inning. So luckily
Don't
for
worry,
us, that's what we got. That's what we got going for us.
I can't do any of that either. As somebody that's been in behind the scenes who has worked hundreds of ESPN productions in both football, baseball, basketball. My wife is the handyman of the family.
Right.
I'm not, because all I know how to do is sports broadcasting and sports
I
media.
get it. I
Yeah.
get it. But
Yeah.
it's like we say, it's for us, our family, it's our family business. It's what we do. It's what we're passionate about. It's what we're good at. And as I said, I'm really, really proud of what Harry Caray started in 1945. I'm exceptionally proud of my dad, who in so many ways was, my hero. I didn't know him particularly well, nor Harry for that matter. But the way that they went about their business, by and large, were things that I wanted to emulate. And I think that's true of any of the sons who followed in their dad's footsteps. If you listen to Joe Buck, he says the same thing about his dad, Tom Brenneman with Marty, Todd Callis with Harry Callis, Kenny Albert with Marv. You can't escape the DNA. You can't escape, hereditary things that we inherit. But it's up to us to take care of the torch and take what's handed to us and what we've earned, and hopefully pass it off to the next generation, whether it's family member or not, and leave the job that we have in better shape and as in good a shape at the very least as when we inherited it.
One of the differences, with you being embedded with the St. Louis Cardinals on the regional sports network, is you're calling almost 90% of their games. How do you bring the energy and the expertise that you have, and also how do you keep up with your preparation throughout that long period of time?
Yeah, I actually believe that doing the games every day makes it easier, not harder. I've done the national gig, and while it's wonderful and it's incredibly difficult to do, it's not something I enjoyed as much. It's really hard parachuting in to do a national game where you're not following the team on a week-to-week basis, and you worry about who's on the injured list or what a guy did in his last start. You didn't see it. You're really flying blind in many ways, shape, or form, and what you're rooting for is a good game, not really rooting or having a rooting interest in what takes place on a national level. That word is impartiality. And I know some of your students wonder, are we really impartial? Most of the time on national games, yeah, we are. We want the game to get over with as fast as we can so we can get back home or get to our next assignment and have it be a compelling and fun game. But for me, doing the games every day is so much easier because Monday's game impacts Friday's game. A guy pinch hitting on Tuesday could impact the way he swings the bat on Saturday. And there is just sort of a natural flow and cycle, a circadian rhythm, if you will, at least for baseball, at least for me, that makes that part of it easier. As far as preparation goes, look, I think people just think we show up with our tie and have a nice cold bottle of water and just talk about the game. That's not the case. I'm up at 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm reading all the newspapers. I'm scanning all this stuff online. I'm listening to the other team's pregame and postgame interviews to talk about what's going on at the ballpark. I'm there at 3 o'clock for a 6:30 game, in both dugouts, in both clubhouses, trying to find insights and talk to people or have questions answered about what took place or what to expect. We meet every day with our manager in closed quarters for about 20-25 minutes to get a tenor of what's going on with the team and how he approaches his bullpen usage, for example, which in baseball is extremely important. So there's a lot of behind the scenes, I like to call it below the waterline stuff with regards to an iceberg that takes place. And ultimately, to put it in student speak, the game itself is the final exam. You either pass it or you flunk it, and you just go into it with as much knowledge as you possibly can and put yourself in a position where something unexpected happens, you're ready for that situation to pop up.
Do you have to find yourself finding a balance between being a fan, of the Cardinals and being that broadcaster and keeping that professionalism, or is that something you really have to deal with being on the regional sports network side?
No, I don't think so. I mean, look, I think when you work for a team, your fans are your audience is rooting for the team. I want the Cardinals to win every single game. I'd love to have a Cardinals World Series ring someday. I would love to be in a locker room with these guys after a division or pennant or World Series winning moment in St. Louis. I think you're less than human if you don't root for some of the guys because you develop relationships. And I think to me, that's the best part of the job is like all of us, we were all 21, 22, or 26 years old when we got to the major leagues for the first time, and we're trying to find our way, and we have a modicum of success. And then we just continue to grow and build and get better and more experienced and more popular and more successful. We get married and have children and then grandchildren. We get old and then we're gone. And that's the same thing with players, right? You see these guys get there, you see how hard it is and understand how difficult it is to become a major league player. And then you see them have success and get married and have children and turn into a dad and see them away from the field. All of those things encompass so much more to me than just whether a guy hits 30 home runs or not. And you can't help but root for those guys because they go through the same human frailties that you do. They just do it on a very different stage and sadly at a different price point than we do.
Yeah. How long did it take you to develop your voice? I teach students all the time that, it'll take some time to develop your voice and the way you sound. And, did you see yourself making any changes early on to how you sounded, or were you just comfortable with, what your voice sounded like, on air?
Yeah, I don't do the Biff Barf thing on TV. I don't do any of that kind of silly stuff. This is how I talk, right? So I think that's the first thing. You have to be yourself. This is a personality-driven business, and the moment you pretend to be someone else, you're just a cheap facsimile of that. I mean, there are millions and millions of baseball audition tapes on the West Coast where everybody tries to sound like Vin Scully. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. There's only one Vin Scully. There'll never be another Vin Scully, just like there'll never be another Jack Buck or Dan McLaughlin or Harry Carey. Be yourself. You have to be yourself. And that's really the art of the job, I think, is for 3 hours a day, you are putting yourself out there for an audience and representing yourself, your team, your city, the players, the sport. And if you're a phony, people can see right through it. And, if you make a mistake, correct it, laugh about it, and move on and try not to do it again. But just be honest. I think people love the human frailties. They love to hear the inside stories of what life's like. They want the peek behind the Wizard of Oz proverbial curtain. And I think we're able to do that. And I think as a result, people enjoy the broadcast because I'm not talking to the audience, I'm talking with the audience. And I think with experience, as you said, that comes naturally. I think the more you do it, the better you are. The Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hour rule. I don't know if it takes 10,000 hours, but, you have to be comfortable in the fact that you're going to make mistakes. You're going to. We work in a very difficult job. There is no safety net. Once it's out of your mouth in today's YouTube and Facebook and Instagram era, it's really, really hard to live those mistakes down. But you're going to make them. You have to understand that the best part of the job or the most important part of the job is to try to put yourself in a position where you don't make them in the first place. And if you do, admit it, correct it, and move on. Because at the end of the day, that's all people care about is, did you make a mistake and did you know you did it?
Yeah. Like I said, here at the School of Media Journalism, we have a sports media program. I've got close to 150 to 200 students that want to be you and others one day. And in that role, what's some of the first advice that you would give them right off the bat?
I would say get on the air, get used to hearing your voice, get used to being in a position where you have to perform, reading school announcements, writing for the newspaper, doing things at a radio station, anything you can do, whether they're student productions or being an intern if ESPN comes in and does football or basketball or women's sports. Being around those people will give you the osmosis you need to know to understand that there's so much more to a sports broadcast than just the guys talking about the game. There are so many talented people, producers, directors, camera people, audio people who are incredibly creative that if they're not good, I can't be great. And if they're not great, I'm going to be lousy. And they're the real stars of the show. And being around them, I think, will give you an appreciation for the hard work that takes place. And it makes, I think, at least me understand that I'm representing their work too. And if something goes wrong, I'm the one that's going to take the hit for it, not Joe Schmo, the audio guy. He's not trying to mess up. But you build a family, you build a team that way. And the way that you build a team is by being on one. And I think the more you're in those kinds of situations in whatever realm it is in college, I think it's incredibly valuable because you don't know who you're going to meet. I mean, look, Howard Stern had a program director named Pig Vomit. And, a buddy of mine worked at the station and Pig Vomit was his boss.
Oh,
So you
wow.
don't know who you're going to run into, and you don't know how your work relationships are going to impact the arc of your career. And I just think the more people you're around that have a shared professional interest, the better off you're going to be because you make contacts, you get experience, and who knows? There have been many a story where guys, an overnight DJ, and
Mm.
somebody gets sick, and hey, we need you to go do the basketball game. They go to the basketball game, and a career was born. So
Yeah.
get in the door, whatever that means. Get in the door, and let the rest of it take care of itself.
How has social media changed your career throughout the years?
Oh, I'm not on it. I don't like it. I'm
Yeah.
not a fan of it. I understand its use.
Mm.
I think it's a cesspool personally.
Hmm.
It is incredibly valuable as far as gathering information and utilizing information. But as I said, it's a very cruel thing. Look, when I started at 24 doing NBA games, I was terrible.
Mm.
If there had been social media back then, I probably would be selling cars someplace.
Mm.
I was really fortunate to grow up in an era where I wasn't expected to be perfect and go from there. I told my twin sons if I were them, I would scrub their social media. I would get rid of it because, as we know, things that you think about or like or talk about when you're 14 are very different than when you're 24 years of age. And I can promise you that people go back and look at that stuff. So if you are on it, great, so be it. But be extremely careful and understand that that is not the best representation, in my opinion, of you or anyone else. It's the way I would describe it is it's talk radio where the caller has the dump button.
Mm.
If you're hosting a radio show and somebody calls in and says something off color, you can hit a button and turn it off and move on to the next conversation. That's not the way it is with social media. All it takes is you saying or liking or being contrarian in today's civil discourse, and it takes on a life of its own. And there's no way that you can stop that runaway freight train. So I'm not a fan of social media personally.
Mm.
I understand its value. I understand this
Yeah,
generation's need for it, but it's something that I don't really pay a whole lot of attention to.
I understand. Um, how important is preparation and how early should students, be, making their own broadcast boards, doing their practice? How early should they be doing that?
I think it. Yeah, I think like anything else. Yeah, well, I think the word you just used is the right one. Practice, right? The sooner
Mm.
you get into a routine, then the sooner you can develop a style and a pattern. And by style, I mean a lifestyle style that will allow you to have your job not rule your life. Your preparation more streamlined and easier and complete, and allows you to do the job in the best way possible. And the only way that's going to happen is through trial and error, and you just have to do it. I was the kid that listened to Al Michaels and Howard Cosell and guys like that on TV, and turned the sound down after a while, and then did my own play-by-play and recorded it. It was terrible, but that's how I practiced. We didn't have all the social media things that kids have access to now. But my 15, 16-year-old son now has a little scorebook here at the house, and he wants to be a broadcaster too. And when the Cardinals are playing the Braves, I send him the lineups, and he goes
Mm.
online and does his research and fills out his book, and then he just fake broadcasts the game in his head in front of the iPad. And as silly as that might sound, when he's 26 years old and hopefully going for a job someplace, this will be old hat
Mhm.
to him because he will have put in, as I said, the 10 years of practice where it's not, oh my God, where do I start? So
Yeah.
I think that's a great point you bring up. It's never too soon to start. It's never too
Mm.
soon to develop a routine. And it's never too soon to not let your routine rule your life. But your routine is important because that's the basis for your preparation. And as I said, the game itself is the final exam where that preparation comes to fruition or not.
Yeah. Lastly, how excited are you to have another season going? Again, your third season with the Cardinals. What's your excitement level? And what are some things that we should look forward to? Watching and listening to you on a normal basis. I speak as a fan on this one as well as a longtime Cardinals fan. Growing up in Southeast Missouri, this was it for me. Was St. Louis Cardinals and listening to everybody and having you just join that line of the most passionate broadcasters in the industry that have gone with the Cardinals. You just joining as well. How excited are you for the season to come up?
Well, thank you again. That's a big compliment. I am passionate about it. I do love what I do. I understand the incredible privilege that I'm afforded to be a spokesperson for a franchise that I grew up, loving as a kid. If you're a St. Louis Cardinal fan of my era, you knew the '64 Cardinals starting lineup before you knew the alphabet. My standard line is, if you listen to me broadcast, that's probably still the case. But I don't take the responsibility lightly. I'm sitting in a chair that Harry Caray and Dizzy Dean and Jack Buck and Jay Randolph sat in, and that's a big deal. And to be thought worthy to inherit that kind of an opportunity is again not something I take lightly. For this season, look, I'm excited. It's going to be a young team. They're going to make a lot of crazy mistakes, but they're going to play with their hair on fire. And I think the guys in that room are very excited about getting the opportunity to go play and show themselves, show their team, and show the rest of Major League Baseball what they're all about. I don't know what to expect with the Cardinals this year. In so many ways, that's what's going to make it so fun, because when you know what's going to happen, what's the point of the 6-month exercise, right? I'd rather go to work not knowing how the hell it's going to turn out. And that's why we do it, right? It's the drama, it's the excitement, and we're going to have fun, and we're going to let people know what's going on. And I think that's what Brad and Jim Edmonds and I and Jim Hayes are very, very proud of, that we're able to inform and hopefully entertain people and let them know that we're all in this together. And we can't wait to get started at the end of March.
Great. Any lasting words you have for future sportscasters?
Hey, just good luck. It's a great way to make a living. It's as my dad used to say, there's no heavy lifting, but understand going in, it's extremely competitive. There are only 30 of these jobs in the world, and know that you have to really be talented, irrespective of your last name, to be able to get a job and keep it. You have to understand that there is a fabulous price to pay for our paradise, and that is, you're going to be away from home. You're going to miss seeing your kids' first steps. You're going to maybe miss birthdays and funerals, because your job has to come first for, at least in baseball's case, 6 months out of the year. If you have a partner who can do that, and if you're willing to put in the time, and if you're willing to put in the work and do whatever it takes within reason to be successful and be a good person, if you have talent, somebody's going to find you. And I'm sure they're going to find you guys at Arkansas State. And I hope to see you guys in the big league soon.
Great. Well, Chip, we thank you very much. That hoodie's going to end up, we're going to have to get you one with a Red Wolf on it.
Sure. That's fine.
They ASU-TV on it.
That's fine. That's fine. This one says good vibes. My wife got this for me, and because baseball season's about to start and I've already begun to pack for the season, this is the only thing I had left that was clean. So I apologize.
No. Hey, it's perfect. And as a token, I'll be getting with you to get you some Red Wolf and some ASU.
That'd be great.
As a token of our appreciation for our time.
My pleasure. Good luck to you guys, and thanks for having me on.
Thank you, Chip. We appreciate everything.
See you soon.
Have a good one. See you.
You too.
Thanks. Bye-bye.